Let's talk more about the situation in Zimbabwe now. Bring in SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena, who's with us here in our Auckland Park studios. Good to see you as always. So this war veteran, Geza, emboldened, even though there weren't that many people who participated in the demonstrations yesterday. How much support does he have?
Well, we know that there's a division within the Zanu-PF, and therefore it's very difficult to really make sense of the kind of support he has. But he also has support outside South Africa, particularly those who are members of the Zanu-PF who are in exile, but also ordinary people who used to support the Zanu-PF. And therefore it is quite difficult to really put perhaps a clear indication or number in terms of balance of forces within the Zanu-PF.
And it comes at a time when the opposition in Zimbabwe is weak. Are we likely going to see the opposition using the latest developments to strengthen itself, to regroup perhaps?
It is going to be very difficult for the opposition. You know that after the elections, there was a huge fallout, particularly the official opposition. And therefore, I can't see this situation helping the opposition either. I think this is going to be up to the Zimbabweans, perhaps to use this kind of fallout within the Zanu-PF to try and send a message in terms of what the ordinary citizens are saying and what they are feeling on the ground in terms of the challenges in that country, because it is a power struggle within the Zanu-PF. We know that it has to do with those who are supporting President Emmerson Mnangagwa and those who are supporting the Vice President Chiwenga. But there was a drama yesterday when one of the individuals who's very close to President Mnangagwa was pushed by the Zanu-PF branch in Harare to be part of the leadership, and this is Takwerey, who is the businessman in that country, but very close to President Emmerson Mnangagwa and the others. And people were even thinking whether does this has to do with succession or what? But we are told that there were attempts to push this name the previous weeks, where you had other regions meeting, even the Central Committee of Zanu-PF, but it didn't happen. And now a surprise yesterday where his name was mentioned, and there was an agreement in Harare to put him as part of the leadership. So there's so much happening in Zimbabwe, quietly, subtle, but something is happening in Zimbabwe. But when I look at the opposition, the way they are divided right now, I can't see the opposition being able to use this fallout within the Zanu-PF, maybe the ordinary Zimbabweans.
Where is the voice of the man at the center of this situation in Zimbabwe currently, Emmerson Mnangagwa? Because part of what we've seen this week has to do with suggestions that he might get a term extension that would be against Zimbabwe's constitution to remain president until 2030. What is he saying?
There's no word from President Mnangagwa as yet. I think he is studying these dynamics, and perhaps before end of the week, we will hear from him. As you know that when he's attending all these government events, he does touch on the situation in Zimbabwe, and in a very diplomatic way. We don't know. We saw that press conference in terms of the Zanu-PF spokesperson having that press conference, but we haven't had much from President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Only the person who is the spokesperson of government, the Minister of Information, yesterday spoke about the situation. We saw also those who were arrested yesterday. They did appear in court today.
Right. And while I have you, Sophie, I want to take advantage of our time together and talk about the breaking news story that we got in the last while, a statement from the International Relations Department confirming a significant development in that there have been face-to-face discussions between a delegation led by the Director General of the International Relations Department, Zane Dango, and officials from the State Department in the US. How much do we know came out of that?
We know that the DG was in the United States of America on a mission to engage the United Nations in New York on South Africa's presidency for the G20. He met different stakeholders. He is the DG of the department, and I think he decided also to engage on other issues that are pertaining to foreign policy of South Africa on the margins of what he was there for. And then he flew to Washington, where it was expected that he was going to continue with the G20 meetings. But little did we know that he was also looking at engaging the White House officials and also the State Department on South Africa's foreign policy and issues that were raised by AfriForum and Solidarity and many other people who are going to US to talk about South Africa. And he took that opportunity to explain quite a number of issues. And those issues are quite intense and very critical, as you know, that there were lots of issues of concern when you look at issues of the land question, the issues of trade relations, the issues of AGOA. And this meeting is actually a follow-up of what was done by the ambassador Ibrahim Rasool, who was expelled by the White House officials. He continued with those meetings that Rasool had organized. You know that I did indicate a week ago that he had done a lot of work. He had been able to speak to the security advisor of President Donald Trump, which is the most senior person that you can speak to. And the meetings were being organized, and therefore he did do a follow-up, the DG, accompanied by the DDG, Clayson Munyela. And therefore, after they've briefed the president, I think now they've taken a decision to release the content of that meeting. And it looks like this is a massive, massive breakthrough for the South African government. But you'd recall earlier on when I was talking to you, I was saying, I'm sensing and picking up a different tone from Trump. He has been quiet about South Africa. And also I pointed out to the embassy here in South Africa, the US embassy, when they were explaining the processes of deploying an ambassador to South Africa. At the bottom of that message, the message was clear: we are ready to engage South Africa, engage. And then the other issue, you saw that statement from Minister Pakstau, DT. I said to you, I suspect that they were told in advance, because tomorrow we are expecting this major announcement that Shawan spoke about. And therefore, let's take a listen at what Christine Piri has to say about this meeting, the spokesperson of the Minister of International Relations.
During the visit, the delegation advanced discussions originally initiated by the former ambassador, engaging with their counterparts in Washington. This included senior officials at the White House and the State Department to address bilateral priorities. The delegation clarified key issues and misconceptions in the meeting with the National Security Council's Africa Director, the Acting Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, as well as Treasury Department representatives. We believe that these dialogues will assist to refine the current administration's understanding of South Africa's position on critical matters, fostering a more nuanced perspective.
And before we let you go, Sophie, I'm looking at the statement. You're talking about an easing perhaps in the relationship between Pretoria and Washington. I'm looking here at the International Relations Department statement. They're using the phrase cordial discussions. They also talk about fruitful engagements. I suppose the focus now has to be building on that momentum if indeed there is significant progress.
Yes, you are correct. And we know that. I spoke to the ANC chairperson of the International Relations Subcommittee, Nomvula Mokoena, who is also the first Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. They are also working on going to the United States of America to meet the friends of the ANC or people who supported the ANC during exile years. You'd recall former president saying that they must continue to engage those that supported the struggle, and particularly the Republicans. And therefore, there's now movement, a serious one, and now South African government, the ANC, they are powering ahead to ensure that they are able to address these concerns. And I still maintain, I'm monitoring Trump every day. I have picked up something.
SABC News international editor Sophie, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for that. The breaking news, just to remind you that discussions have been held face-to-face between Washington and Pretoria for the first time since Trump took office.